What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be talking about the multiplayer maps in Black Ops 4, and more specifically, the information we got from the interview from a couple days ago with David Vonderhaar and Game Informer that seems to confirm that we're only going to be seeing 11 total multiplayer maps at launch for Black Ops 4. Now, to directly quote Vonderhaar from this interview when he was asked about the number of multiplayer maps, he said, "I think you guys know about all the maps we're going to have," and then he also says, "I'm pretty sure that's out there in public information." So with this, he didn't directly state that we're only going to be seeing the 11 maps at launch and then Nuketown coming in November, but of course he does know all the maps that are going to be in the game, and it seems highly unlikely that he would forget that they haven't talked about a map or they've got other maps that are under wraps that aren't public information that we haven't seen yet. If there were maps that they were keeping for launch that we haven't seen, he would definitely know about that even off the top of his head if asked in an interview. So unfortunately, this really seems to strongly suggest that there will be no other multiplayer maps that we haven't already heard about for Black Ops 4 at launch. So let's go over all the maps that we know about so far. First up, we have the 6 maps that we had access to in the multiplayer beta. We have Contraband, Payload, Seaside, Frequency, Gridlock, and Hacienda. Now, after the beta at Gamescom, they revealed one more map called Arsenal, and they actually showed some gameplay on YouTube. They allowed some of the European YouTubers to actually capture gameplay and share it on YouTube, but I don't think that information blew up too much, so unless you're really following the news on Black Ops 4, you may have missed the information about this Arsenal map. And then we have 4 maps that have been confirmed to be coming to the game that are remade from previous Black Ops games. We have Firing Range, Slums, Jungle, and Summit. So those are the 11 multiplayer maps that we know for sure are coming at launch. In addition to that, of course, 1 month after launch, we will be getting Nuketown for free for everybody, but that isn't considered a launch map since we're getting it 1 month after launch. So realistically speaking, as far as we know, and as far as David Vonderhaar seems to suggest, we're only going to have 7 brand new maps coming to Black Ops 4 at launch, the 6 that we've already had access to in the beta, as well as Arsenal that was revealed at Gamescom, and then we're going to have 4 remade maps as well. Now, don't get me wrong, those remade maps are some of my favorite maps from the Black Ops franchise, and I am excited that they're coming to the game, but they're not necessarily a replacement for brand new content and a brand new experience for us. But even if you combine those two categories and you look at just having 11 maps at launch, is that enough? Well, let's have a look at the history of the Call of Duty franchise and how many maps each Call of Duty game has launched with since Call of Duty 4. So COD 4 launched with 16 multiplayer maps, World at War launched with 13, Modern Warfare 2 launched with 16, Black Ops 1 launched with 12, Modern Warfare 3 launched with 16, Black Ops 2 launched with 15, Ghost launched with 15, Advanced Warfare launched with 14, Black Ops 3 launched with 13, Infinite Warfare also launched with 13, and World War II last year launched with 9 regular multiplayer maps. And there was quite a bit of backlash last year for World War II launching with only 9 regular multiplayer maps. And honestly, I feel like it was a big issue with the game throughout the year, and one of the things that led to that game becoming stale very, very quickly. So this time around, it looks like we're going to have more maps at launch than World War II, but fewer than every other Call of Duty game since COD 4. And this isn't even mentioning the fact that 4 of these are going to be remade maps, whereas in all the previous years, nearly every single one of the launch maps were completely new and unique maps. So the average map count at launch for every Call of Duty game since COD 4 was roughly 14. We're definitely below average this time around, assuming that this is true and Vonderhaar wasn't mistaken as he was answering that question in the interview. Definitely below average, and this is quite concerning. Like I said, this is something that I really feel held back COD World War II. It did get quite stale, and I think a lot of this just had to do with a lack of content. Also, I feel like the general quality of the maps in World War II wasn't very good. At least I can say the maps that we've played in Black Ops 4, I really like them in general, and I think they're very well designed maps. So I don't think we have a quality issue nearly as much as last year with World War II. But if I'm being honest with you guys, my heart really sank when I saw that answer from Vonderhaar, because I was honestly expecting like a minimum of 15 multiplayer maps at launch. One of the big reasons behind this is the fact that they dropped campaign, and therefore I thought that meant they were going to put more resources into multiplayer, but it seems like those resources went more towards zombies. We're having the most amount of zombies maps at launch, which is great for the zombies community, but I don't really play zombies, and also obviously Blackout. Now, I think this is kind of their saving grace here when it comes to the content at launch, because Blackout, at least for me, I know it's not for everyone, but at least for me, Blackout is going to give me a ton of gameplay time and a ton of enjoyment, way more than a campaign ever did. So part of me isn't quite as concerned about the lack of maps simply because I have Blackout to fall back on. But at the same time, there's plenty of people out there that have no interest whatsoever in Blackout and they just want to play multiplayer. And for those people, this really sucks if we're only going to have 11 maps at launch, 4 of which are remakes. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention with this is a little while back, there was a map list leaked that had 17 multiplayer maps, and it seems like it was accurate because it did accurately predict a few maps that weren't public knowledge at the time, and they ended up coming to the game. So it is likely that there are 17 maps contained within the code, or at least traces of 17 maps contained within the code. Not necessarily all of them would be completed at launch. And this is something we saw last year with World War II as well, and I think we've even seen it in the past, where the developers have started working on the post-launch maps, so you can find traces of them in the code, but they're not necessarily completed maps for launch. Now this leaves me with one extra question when it comes to multiplayer maps. I wonder if they're going to be adding any more free multiplayer maps post-launch. COD World War II did this, and it was kind of nice of them to do this throughout the year, where they added maps like the Headquarters map, which I think played terrible for multiplayer, but it was kind of a neat idea for them to add that. They also added Shipment, as well as Groston House, as well as the Sandbox map. Perhaps we're going to be seeing something similar with Black Ops 4, where alongside the Black Ops Pass maps that you have to pay extra for, perhaps on top of that, we'll be seeing some extra free maps added for everybody, and I really hope that's going to be the case to boost up the free maps that are included with the game, because 11 maps is pretty lackluster. Of course, though, this is where I want to pass it off to you guys. What do you guys think of the multiplayer maps in Black Ops 4? Do you think it's too few? Do you think it's enough? Also, what do you guys think about quality versus quantity? As long as they're really quality maps, are you okay with having fewer maps than previous years? Or would you rather have a few extra maps, even if it meant some of those maps weren't that great and you didn't enjoy too much? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.
Yeah.